verse or chorus, and I'll tell you which is which. Then I'll tell you that this form is called an octastitch. I'm pants at reading music, and I don't have perfect pitch. But when it comes to writing songs, I've got to scratch that itch. HFO goes live on air, we all expect a glitch. 'Cause every show I do, I know that I will find a hitch. I'm not expecting what I do to ever make me rich. I'm having fun with making music here right now with you on Twitch. Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's February the 18th, 2021. Hello to Array of Emotions, who says, video's a bit choppy. I've just been having a look. If you run Twitch, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there is a companion website to Twitch called Twitch Inspector. And it lets you see how stable your stream is. And yeah, no unstable events. Yeah, camera feed is a bit choppy as well. I would imagine that Ryako Music says, yikes. Oh dear. I would imagine what's going on, oh, excuse me, is that everybody's watching NASA television this evening because the Perseverance rover is due to make touchdown on the red planet at 5 to 9 Greenwich Mean Time tonight. Excuse me, I've just dropped my drink mat on the floor somewhere. There's always a glitch. It wouldn't be HFO TV without the H for Hitch, would it? Racco Music says, oh, that's tonight. Yes, it is. It's in just over an hour and 20 minutes. It's one of these bizarre things where, let's go back to Screenscape, have you? I've been reading up on it and seeing what time it happens. So, yeah, next Mars rover ready for most precise landing yet. And it's one of those things where they basically enter the atmosphere, and because Martian atmosphere is really thin, things like parachutes and stuff aren't really that great for slowing you down. So this is just going to aero brake, and then a parachute will deploy to slow down a bit. And then it's one of these flying jetpack, remote jet rocket propelled crane affairs. And it will lower the rover onto the surface and then fly off and park itself somewhere out of the way, in theory. So fingers crossed. I'm really hoping this goes well, because the Perseverance rover also features the first helicopter that, if all goes according to plan, the first aircraft to fly on a world other than planet Earth. How cool is that? So I'm really, really looking forwards to hearing how that goes. They're doing the sky crane again, says Array of Emotions. Exactly so. So it should be awesome, because the thing just hovers, lowers down the rover, and yeah, and they're doing that autonomously, because it takes like, what, 7-8 minutes to get to Mars. So by the time you've pushed the joystick one way, it's going to be a bit late to figure out if it was the right way or not. Array of Emotion says, I just checked on my phone and it's okay. The feed, that is. That is good to know. So, hello all. Thank you for joining me. Hello all to the real Arthur Black and Stupid UK Guy, both of whom followed me since the, well, in Stupid UK Guy's case, it was during the last stream, just as I was saying, right, bye, folks. So I hope he manages to catch this time. But yeah, how are we all? It's been another one of these weird weeks. It's been spam central on February album writing month. Rabemzif, I am awake. Greetings to you, sir. I am glad you could join us, and I hope things are well where you are. Yeah, it's been spam central on form. I've suspended over a dozen accounts today, and there is one nutter is the only word I can describe for who obviously wants his health and wellness centre to feature prominently on the list of people trying to write 14 songs in 28 days, because I keep suspending him and he comes back an hour later with another username and exactly the same spiel about his wellness centre and exactly the same web links, and I just delete them again. So yeah, he's not going to win. But it's just annoying because I want to try and carry on and do stuff with music. Riako says, doing okay, being tired these last couple of days, so no forming for me. I hope you're feeling better than you were yesterday. So, yeah, there's a lot of just sort of general feeling bleh around at the moment. So I kind of thought I'd talk a bit tonight about writer's block and just feeling like, no, tank's dry, because there are an awful lot of people on form who seem to be posting messages to that effect in the forums on form. And when you're trying to create and be creative and come up with ideas and nothing's happening, it's depressing. And that kind of makes you worse at being blocked, and you end up in this sort of spiral. And so I hope I'd take some time tonight to talk about what sort of things drive writer's block, because they're all kind of psychological things. And believe me, I have had first-hand experience of quite a few of them. So I'll talk you through ways in which, if you are feeling a bit down or a bit out of sorts or just generally not feeling it, there are ways to fire the muse back into action. What else am I going to talk about tonight? Well, you saw I gave away really one of the surprises, didn't I? So let's go back to it now, and I'll get it out of the way now. So HFO, being semi-retired, is all about getting stuff for as little money as possible to help his music making. And one of the things that he likes finding is instruments that he can use in Contact or Contact Player. And there is a company based in Cologne in Germany called Klang, and they do a lot of really, really nice instruments. And I posted about this on the February Album Writing Month forums on Monday afternoon, I think it was. And literally in the time it took me to download the latest instrument and post about it on the forums, their site crashed. That's how popular these plugins are. But it's back up and running. So that's clang.cologne. And they do a whole bunch of free instruments for Contact. The new one is called Lost in Thoughts. What it is, it's a sampled Juno 60, and by a strange coincidence, it's one of these, this one here. So I actually have the synth that this is a sample of, but it's rather nice. It's got a fairly decent timbre to it. But it's just a big fat strings pad from a Juno 60. But if you go to the Klang site, you can download them, and it doesn't cost you anything. They're free free downloads. There are also some other very good ones. Indigo Waves is rather good. The Musical Box is rather cute. If you like low drones and ominous buzzing noises, then Neon Tube Buzz is very much going to be your thing. And the Bodega Strings is rather nice too. They're all nice. Bamboo Bamboo, Lo-Fi Samba. Yeah, loud Lo-Fi Samba. It has to be said. And while I've got my browser up, the other thing that I've kind of been fascinating with today, and this sort of drops into one of the ways in which you can overcome block. And that is basically by feeding your head, by seeking out new worlds and new civilizations. No, that's the wrong program. Find stimulating ideas. Find ideas that are going to get your cogs whirring. And I found one today, which is this. And so 42,000 years ago, the Earth's magnetic field flipped. What was south became north, and what was north became south. And this kind of happens all the time on planet Earth, just over very, very long geological timescales. And the last time this happened was about 42,000 years ago, according to this website. And people are now calling it, as you see there, the Adams event, because it explains a lot of stuff like megafauna extinctions. And everybody's going, oh yeah, this is very plausible. Okay, I'm not convinced. And there's always one of these, this explains everything theories that crops up in archaeology with depressing regularity. So you may not have heard of this, but in the Younger Dryas period, which is about 11,500 years ago, evening Wobby Wobbit. The Younger Dryas period, that's Dryas. A whole bunch of people think that a comet hit Earth, or bits of a comet fractured, and then it came down all over North America, South America, Europe, Asia, or wherever else they happen to have an event that they want to kind of explain away as causing extinctions or killing off megafauna or just generally killing off particular civilizations. And it looks like this Adams event is now going to join the Younger Dryas impact event as being the sort of explanation du jour for various unsolved problems in archaeology. Not convinced, though. Not convinced at all. But surely that's a subject you could get a song out of, yeah, perhaps. Yes, we're back to February album writing month. I have been fulfilling my commitments this week, so I haven't actually got an awful lot to share with you. I've got one new song to share with you, but that does not mean I have not been busy. One of the things that I've been doing this week is doing my contributions to the Dragon Dreams house party. Don't you remember 2 years ago in 2019, Paul Hudson, aka Dragon Dreams, hosted a house party at his castle where the gargoyles handled butler and footman duty, and as Wobby said at the time, it was vol-au-vent carnage. Lord Sapient parked his airship and completely blocked the car park. Dr. Racoy lost one of his trombones. They apparently lead very wayward lives, and it's huge fun. It's still on Paul's website. I will find the link and post it in the show notes on this on YouTube. And I had a whale of a time doing multi-tracked guitars and clearly having far more fun than I should have had. Rico Music says, sorry, what is this? So this is a collaboration, a multiple collaboration between participants on February album writing month. I did mine on Monday and had, again, far too much fun got an email back from Paul yesterday, and he said he gave me a script. So there is actually a script for this version, which featured radioactive pianos, because Paul had seen the contact instrument called Pripyat Pianos, which was a bunch of guys going into the Chernobyl exclusion zone with a tape recorder, as one does, and sampling pianos left in various places like the town hall or the schools in Pripyat, which was the closest town to the Chernobyl nuclear reactor that had to be evacuated in 1986 and has been gradually mouldering into decay since. And so Paul had actually sort of worked this into the script. I said, you do realise I've got those pianos, don't you? So I then went back and did a whole new set of bits of contribution to the jam track that feature the aforementioned radioactive sample pianos from Pripyat. So that was fun. Ryako Music says, I ought to do this. You really should. I think everybody should, but Paul's got to stitch contributions together by the end of the month, so it's going to be mayhem. Is this the simple word for it? Absolute mayhem, but huge fun. If I promised a collaboration with you at some point during February album writing month, then please give me a nudge, because I have got to the point in February album writing month where I'm losing the track of what's going on at all. Rebemsiv says, crazy, my sister's old upright's been in the garden for years. Looks beautiful. Sample time. Oh, you've got to. Yeah, absolutely. And if you go to pianobook.co.uk, there is an entire community of people who do nothing in their spare time more rewarding than sampling old pianos, and in some cases actually dropping them with a crane. But check out pianobook.co.uk. You will probably find tools and tips for creating a sampled piano from your recordings. And I know they do have a bunch of software tools that may make the process a bit easier. And if not tools, they can certainly point you in the right direction as to what to do. Because I wouldn't have a Scooby. I would have no clue how you go about sampling something, whether it's Juno 60 behind me or a piano that's been in the back garden. But I really like the idea of that. Okay, so I've been reading up. And one of the things that I tracked down, although sadly I do not have a subscription to Sage, which is the academic site that actually basically makes money out of academic work, which I think is morally totally indefensible, but I can at least read the citations. So, Yale University psychologists Jerome Singer and Michael Barrios study in writer's block, what it is, how you can work through it, and what the causes of it are. And they found that actually it's not just a thing, it's a whole bunch of things. So there are different categories of writer's block, and they stem from, as I said at the beginning of the show, different aspects of your mental health. So, for instance, one of the drivers of writer's block is a feeling of helplessness, of not having agency over anything that you do. Now, there may be an awful lot of non-psychological reasons why that may be so, but those can also lead to anxiety and depression, which again give you those same feelings of helplessness, but in addition can just suck the joy and the colour and the vibrancy out of any idea that you may have when you're in that sort of state. And believe me, having suffered on and off with depression for the best part of 30 years now, it is very, very easy to just go, well, I'm just not going to bother. And category 3 is the feelings of worthlessness or just inferiority, or just feeling, imposter syndrome, of feeling that you should not be creating, that you should not be writing music, that you should not, in fact, try any creative endeavor whatsoever. And the fundamental approach of form is to say to that inner critic, look, just take the month off. All right, just go away. I'm not going to listen to you this month. And there is also a fourth driver of writer's block, and that is dissatisfaction with oneself and dissatisfaction with your relationships with others. And that can lead to aggression, that can lead to irritation with other people's behaviour, can lead to bullying, it can lead to an awful lot of offensive behaviour. And sadly, we're at the point in form where those sort of behaviours are beginning to pop up every now and again in the forums. And I've put my mod hat on in a couple of occasions, said, look, just play nice, folks, okay? Because I understand what's driving those behaviours. I understand where they're coming from. And I have to be careful that I don't succumb to those behaviours myself. And if I wasn't on antidepressants, arguably, I probably would not be in the point that I'm at now, which is, 18 days into February album writing month, where I've pretty much done it. If you are in one of those 4 categories, what can you do about it? Again, I've been doing my research and having a look online, and if you're blocked and you don't know how to get past it, then the best thing, the easiest thing to do is just step away from the keyboard for a couple of days. Step away from your guitar, step away from your synthesizers, step away from your ukulele or your kazoo or your tissue paper and comb, whatever you've got. Just give yourself the space to take a day off or two and just chill out. What else are you going to do to unplug and decompress and blow the cobwebs away? Well, one way is go out for a walk. And yeah, it's not really a starter here at the moment because it's been tipping it down for the past 3-4 days, apart from one bit where it stopped tipping it down on Tuesday afternoon and started a torrential hailstorm instead. So it's not been a great week for taking exercise here. But what else are you going to do? Well, I have been having really weird dreams. I had the most amazing dream this morning, and dream journals, right? Graham Greene, the novelist, got blocked when he was, well, he didn't get blocked when he was a kid, but he ran away from school at Berkhamsted when he was very, very young because he hated the place. And in sort of therapy to try and get over it, the person who was trying to talk him into sorting himself out said, well, why don't you keep a dream journal? So he did for the rest of his life. And this morning I just had the most bizarre dream, which was to do with Andrei Tarkovsky's classic 1980s, I think it is, science fiction movie called Stalker, which spawned a video game and is a very, very long, very, very sedentary, very, very slowly paced movie about a bunch of guys wandering around in a zone which is inspiredly called The Zone, where a bunch of aliens landed and had a picnic. It's based on Arkady and Boris Strugatsky's novel Roadside Picnic, which is about mysterious visitations that happen. Things land on Earth. They basically have a picnic at the side of the road, throw their litter all over the place, and then bugger off without making any form of contact with human civilization whatsoever. But the point of The Zone is it is full of things that can make people who survive encountering them and bringing them out of the zone very, very rich. Okay, brilliant film, very, very slow, glacially slow. For some reason, last night I dreamt that it had been turned into a musical and Pink Floyd had got back together again to do the music. And at one point I was watching David Gilmour, who was looking through a plate glass window on the roof of a building somewhere. And then that morphed into me having to describe the plot of the musical that I just watched to earn points, I presume for a scholarship of some sort, to a room full of university professors. And it was at the point where you finally think, this is a bit strange, was of course the point where I woke up and realised it was nearly 10 o'clock and got up and had my breakfast. The point being that your mind, if it's anything like my mind, and it may well be in some remote stretches of the imagination, is a hotbed of bonkers ideas that are just crying out to be written down, interpreted, turned into films, turned into music, turned into songs, turned into plays, turned into operas, turned into books, turned into graphic novels, you name it. Keeping a dream journal so that you can write this weird stuff down and then come back to it and go, what was I thinking? Is a really, really fertile source that will drive your creative engines, even if it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But who says a song has to make any sense at all? I've got songs in my record collection that make absolutely no sense, but I like listening to them. So go for a walk, take naps. Naps are, and if you've been following the development of a new musical genre that was invented by Candle during February Album Writing Month called Slothcore, the idea is that it is between 20 and 40 beats per minute. It's grungy and dirty and slow and allows pauses for naps for those people who require naps. And Candle suggested that that would be the sort of stressed students in your life might benefit from naps during a Slothcore song. Reactor Music says Slothcore. It's hugely addictive. I've done 2 so far. I may well do another Slothcore song before the end of the month. In fact, I was wondering whether I might even do a Slothcore string quartet, because would that not be particularly ridiculous? Ryako Music says, mine wasn't really dirty but was quite slow. I listened to it and I commented on it. I loved it. The washes of your glorious vocals and the really, really slow and leisurely 30 beats per minute pace, very much my sort of thing. Rather enjoyed that. Bobby says, oh, Mr. Chunk, because I had a phone call. There will, as always, I will edit this down tomorrow morning and chuck it up on YouTube. If you're feeling bleh, and practicing self-care, it may just be something as simple as just going, I'm going to have a bubble bath. And that believe it or not, was Douglas Adams's number one solution for writer's block. Douglas Adams, who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency and a whole bunch of other stuff, and did a lot of wonderful wildlife programs, including Last Chance to See, which was basically him going around the world looking at endangered animals that are on the red list. Douglas Adams famously came up with the quote, "I love deadlines. I love the whooshing noise they make as they go past me." And when Douglas Adams got blocked, he would get seriously blocked. So he would go and have a bath. And according to Jeffrey Perkins, who was his producer on the original series of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when it was on Radio 4 in the 1970s, Douglas had been known to take as many as 4 baths a day. So despite the fact that he wasn't producing any text, he was getting progressively cleaner. Douglas Adams was also famous for taking a manuscript, because this is back in the days before word processors, when he was writing the original Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was all done typewriters. He would take a page of typewritten text and start dicking around with it and fixing it and writing stuff again, which meant that if he'd started the day with about 1,200 words written, by the end of the day he could actually have reduced that to just having 800 words written. So he could actually do negative writing in terms of the rate at which he produced things. Douglas Adams also was monumentally fond of having large meals in Indian restaurants. And that was another way in which he would counteract writer's block. But the main point of this is that you give your mind or your sensations or your emotions something else to work on rather than thinking about music. And De French Dogie says, "I feel empty creatively. I think I hit all." This is what... So sit down, grab yourself a beverage. That is what tonight's show is about. It's all about identifying why you might have hit the wall, and that can be things like just feeling a little bit down. I mean, not chronic depression like yours truly, but you can have feelings of, imposter syndrome. You can be worried about stuff. You may be stressing about something that is or is not happening. And as Ryako Music says, you can just be tired. You can be worn out. And the thing is to recognize that fact. And if you're tired, then take naps. If you're feeling blocked and you just can't think straight, then step away from the keyboard, go and have a walk round the block, sleep on it. The scientist Kekulé, who was the person who discovered the cyclic ring structure of the benzene molecule, which is also at the heart of the caffeine molecule, I would like to point out, had absolutely no idea how all the different molecules, or how all the different atoms in a molecule of benzene fitted together. He knew how many there were of carbon and hydrogen. He knew that the actual molecular atomic weight of the molecule had to be a certain thing, but he could not figure out how it could possibly fit together. And he had a nap. And during his nap, he dreamed of a snake eating its own tail, which is a famous Greek symbol known as Ouroboros. And when he woke up, he realized that the snake was basically the form of the benzene molecule. And he immediately understood what the imagery was trying to tell him. And if I remember correctly, he won a Nobel Prize for that. Could be wrong. could be wrong, but he certainly became famous as the man whose chemistry lesson problem, the answer came to him in a dream. I wanted to complete a challenge for once, Ryaka Music, says Defresh Dogi. There's still plenty of time. And for formers, if you're stuck and you want to really get your teeth into things and offload some of the harder cognitive, creative lifting, the weekend's coming up. Weekends during February, on the February Album Writing Month site, they have what are known as skirmishes. Skirmishes are a great way of coming up with a whole bunch of songs really fast. You've got this. You can do skirmishes. The idea is that the person running the skirmish says, there will be a skirmish at 8 p.m. tonight. So everybody goes to the thread on the form forum at 8 p.m. and the person running the skirmish says, and the subject is, and they will give you a word or a sentence or, you know, an animal or a recipe or whatever it is. And you basically commit to saying, okay, I'm going to write something with that as the title or the subject or the inspiration, and I'm going to post it in an hour. So you don't have to commit to large chunks of time. You just take an hour out and do something. And even if it's just lyrics, just put something together, and then after an hour you post it on the February Album Writing Month site, and you get a little 5-digit URL that's the song number, and then you just plonk that in the forum thread, and you've done the skirmish. You've got a song out of the way. The last weekend in form, there are skirmishes running pretty much continuously, hour by hour. So if you've got 7 songs to do, you could quite literally start at 1 p.m. on the Saturday and work through until 8 p.m. So 7-hour-long periods on Saturday, and do a song per hour and get them all out of the way. It is possible to do. I know one year I'd got stuck, and so I just came in here, and it was back when everything was shoehorned under the bed. I wrote 4 songs in an afternoon, and yeah, 2 of them were not particularly great, but one of them was actually one of the best songs that I wrote in the entire February Album Writing Month. And why was it one of the best songs that I'd written during the entire February Album Writing Month? Because I'd had, through necessity, to get my inner critic, my inner editor, my co-producer to just take the afternoon off and get out of the way and just let the creative juices flow. And I still remember that track was called Form It, which I think is still on my SoundCloud page. And I really enjoy listening to that song now, because it still gives me that feeling of suddenly unclogging the block, and suddenly it all just went bleh. And it was like, I've just written 4 songs. How on earth did I do that? And the reason is that I told my inner critic, my co-producer, my editor, to just go and do one while I got on with work. So, yeah. If you're still looking for an idea and skirmishes aren't your thing, what else can you do? One of the things that I love doing, and I do it every year, is that I take one song or more than one song and go, I'm not going to be HFO this afternoon. No, I am going to be Tom Waits. Or I am not going to be HFO this afternoon. I am going to be ELO. And I'm going to write a song in the style of the Electric Light Orchestra, or the style of Tom Waits, or the style of Motorhead, or the style of Devin Townsend, or whoever you fancy. Just pretend you're that person and write a song that you think they would sound like if they were channeling through you. And you can take that further. You can say, you can think of an artist and then think of a subject that that artist would never cover in 1,000 years, and mash the two things together and think, what would that sound like? And have fun with it. Just as Juha, as Januaris said, I can be either sensible or I can be really, really, really silly. And guess which one is going to be the more fun? Rapemsif says, I know the feeling well, much too well. Part of the process, methinks. Oh, it totally is. And it's your subconscious getting in the way. It's your subconscious. I mean, like, different people get blocked by different things. So one of the things that stops people a lot, and it's basically what February Album Writing Month is designed to prevent happening, is that finishing a song is for some people, it's a massive commitment. Because when you take that creative decision and say, this song's finished, and put it out in the world, even worse, then you open up yourself to people telling you whether they liked it or not. And frankly, if you post it on form, the chances are people are going to go, this is great, I really like that person, that part of the song. It's letting you become vulnerable. And for some people, that's a massive, massive problem. For whatever reason, Riaka Music says, I still get nervous about putting anything out. I'm 60 now. I'm old and I just don't care anymore. So I put a lot of my stuff out, and if people like it, then yeah, fine. And to be honest, over the last 6 months, the stuff I've put out, most of it's been quite a lot better than I was doing, 2 or 3 years ago, when about half of what I was putting out, I would just listen to it afterwards and go, what was I thinking? At least I don't tend to get that so much these days, but I'll still have mad ideas. The thing is, if you have a mad idea, it is not cool to just go, no, that's silly, I'm not doing that. If you have a mad idea, it is important that you follow it through and do something with it, because it's the mad ideas that sometimes turn out to be the ones where you go, you know what, that was really bloody good. And I'm really proud of that one. So, yeah, tell your inner critic to go do one. Riaka Music says, I just don't want someone to tell me my song babies are ugly, lol. Yeah, they are never ugly. To their parents, no song can be, well, some of mine, no, it's true. You should never knock your own work. You really, really shouldn't knock your own work. And yes, I've done it in these very, very hallowed halls, room, live streams, whereas I've been doing these 40 weeks. I've been doing this show now, which just I still find very, very difficult to come to terms with. It's like, where did that come from? But even more bizarre is that you guys show up and heckle me in the chat, which is fantastic and very, very much appreciated. So, yeah, go for a walk, take a nap, space out, pretend you're somebody else, copy somebody else's style, write something that you vowed you'd never write. If you're into metal and you can't stand country and western music, write a country and western song. I did it last year about a cowboy whose self-driving truck had left him, because it was a trope that I'd seen several people mention, and I thought, you know what, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to beat me to the punch. And I even came up with an appalling pun for the name of the song, which was Lost My Drive. You see what I did there? So, yeah, I've written a country and western song. Scarily, it actually sounded like a plausibly country and western song, which is terrifying. So 5090, I might actually write more country and western songs. But yeah, do something that you say that you could never in a million years envisage yourself doing. Rabemsif says, no baby is ugly, perish the thought. They are all beautiful, and they are all above average. And if any of you note where that particular line comes from, let me know in the chat, see if anybody knows. Where all the women are beautiful and all the children are above average. Name that town. Right, while you're thinking of that, I think I've been blathering on for an entire hour, long enough. So let's have some music, shall we? So let's go to Ableton. So this is what I have been up to today. It's got singing in it. It's got a pre-chorus in it. It has a whole bunch of double-tracked guitars, and it has lots of synths. And I wrote this song thinking about how we want to change what we do. So it comes back to, you may have decided to reinvent yourself at some point in your past, and most of your friends and family would have embraced that and supported it. But you may have had somebody in your family or in your social circle who feels threatened by the fact that you are not who you used to be, and will do their utmost to force you back into being the person that you were before you had your enlightenment or whatever else. And in a lot of cases, that person can be ourselves, because we may find it more difficult to be the reinvented version of ourselves than we had prior expectations of it being. And it becomes very easy to think, well, I could just go back to being who I was. But the whole point of life is to develop and grow. And if you turn back into the person that you were because it's the easiest thing to do, then you're losing something beautiful and valuable. And I kind of wanted to get that philosophy across in a song. So this is the song where I get that philosophy across, and it's called Pattern Reinforcement, and it sounds like this.
Do you do what is expected? By the people close to you. And have you ever felt rejected? Because of what you chose to do. Though we know we have to change to find the things we lack, life resists being rearranged, tries to push us back. We need to recognize the patterns that we reinforce, the factors in our lives determine how it runs its course. If they're beneficial, you can simply play along. Ignore the superficial, don't let any steer you wrong. Do you feel you're under pressure? don't suit their ends. Though we know we have to change to find the things we lack, life resists being rearranged, tries to push us back. We need to recognize the patterns that we reinforce, the factors in our lives determine how it runs its course. If they're beneficial, you can simply play along. Ignore the superficial, don't let any steer you wrong.
So that was Pattern Reinforcement, which was track number 13 for me for February album writing month this month. Rauko says, I like how you treated your vocals. As I said, there's very little on them. I'm using RX7's mouth click treater to get rid of the worst of the mouth noise. Then there's the Waves plugin, which is Vocal Rider Stereo, which is effectively, it does the same thing as riding the faders. It does it automatically, so it keeps the volume of your vocals nice and tamed. And then just Nectar 3, which is my default vocal processor on anything that I do these days. I don't even use the pitch. So there's a gate, which is just removing the background noise of the chair or breathing. Bit of EQ, de-esser, bit more EQ. Then what we got on the end? I think there's, compressor. And the compressor's got fairly savage ratio on it, 10:1, and then a tiny bit of reverb in the mids. Racco Music says, I feel like different mics will affect how you actually perform and record. So it could be you that has changed, not just the mic. Oh, undoubtedly so. Undoubtedly so. I am not singing the way I did before I bought this mic, because it's responding to nuances in my voice that it's bringing out, and the whole proximity effect of the mic. So it gives a lot more of the high end, but also the low mids really, really bloom when you put your nose on the pop shield, which is what I'm doing now. It completely changes the character of my voice, and part of it is, having been doing this for a while now, I've gone through a whole bunch of different mics. And I started with, believe it or not, one that I think came from Radio Shack, or Tandy's as they were over here, because that's all I had. One of these little plastic £7 dynamic microphones. I actually use it as a sort of vocoder input for the Korg M3 now. But I went through a bunch of really, really, really cheap microphones for the first couple of years, and then thought, well, everybody uses a Shure SM58, so I'll use one of those. And I got much better results with the Shure SM58. But again, I realised that to get the best out of a Shure SM58, you literally have to have your nose on the pop shield. And then somebody in a Berkeley massively open online course that I did about music production said, if you want to get decent results out of your recording studios, the first thing that you need to buy, it was one of those, the first thing that you need to buy was a large diaphragm condenser microphone. So I did. And if I switch to the shelf cam, this is it here. That thing. And it's a Rode NT1A, I think. It came with a brilliant kit. So you can see it's got a shock mic, a shock mount on it. And it came with a pop shield, and it came with a stand mount, and it came with a little dust cover over it and everything else. I think it cost me £125. So the Rode's gone up a bit in price since I bought it, but it is still a fantastic all-round, all-purpose microphone. It's brilliant for acoustic guitar, which the SM7B doesn't tend to do so well at. But it's also very, very good for voices. It's also very, as you saw, very, very much more sensitive. If I track vocals on this, I'm fine. If I do vocals on the Rode, I can't do them during the day in the summer because it picks up birdsong from outside. If you're blocked by something that you don't like the results you're getting, and you've got, even if it's like a crappy dynamic microphone that you got from Radio Shack back in the day, or you're using your current phone, mix things up. Try the phone that you used to have, which no doubt is sitting at the back of a drawer somewhere, abandoned. Or just find a dictation machine. Dictation machines do really, really strange things to the sonic qualities of sound. So they're all huge fun to play with. Mix it up. Do something different. I did a track during 5090 just using Audacity, and then tried it again live on camera and crashed and burned. But maybe I'll do it again next 5090 and have another go with Audacity. Or I might sit down and teach myself Cakewalk and do all my stuff for a song using Cakewalk instead. And because one thing that Cakewalk does, top tip kids here, because I didn't know this, and if you have MIDI information in Cakewalk for your song and you've written a song, Cakewalk can export that as musical script, not as, it'll even do guitar tab as far as I'm aware. It's like, what? So I'm now toying with the idea of exporting my MIDI files to Cakewalk just to see what the sheet music for them would look like, because that's the sort of diversion that one gets on an HFO live stream. But yeah, so main things about being blocked. A, try and identify what sort of psychological reasons might be causing you to be blocked. If it's imposter syndrome, then I know it's difficult, but you will never find a more supportive environment for letting a new song out into the wild than February album writing month. Rapemsif says, is Cakewalk still alive? Amazed. It's not only alive, it's thriving. It is now totally free. It's run by the people at BandLab. And so if you search online for BandLab Cakewalk and you're using PCs, you can download it. You install it. It comes with a whole set of really good VSTs. It has a virtual precision bass, P-Bass plugin, and a set of MIDI files so you can do walking bass lines without knowing how to play a bass guitar. And it sounds like a precision bass. It's not in the easy bass line league, but it ain't far off. And if Wobby's still around, Wobby is our resident Cakewalk expert because Wobby uses Cakewalk. And if you've heard the stuff that she does, she gets good results out of it. You can multi-track, you can do all sorts of things with it. It's really worth checking out. So yeah, mix it up a bit. And if it is depression or anxiety that is causing you problems, then do talk to your doctor. Do not do what I did and tell yourself for the best part of 20 years that, no, I'm fine, I'm just a bit low today, because you are possibly suffering quite badly from something that could be fixed with either cognitive behavioral therapy or with prescription drugs or just with talking therapies or just with a lifestyle change. Don't suffer in silence is what I would say for that. And the other question that has been cropping up a lot during February album writing month this last week or so in the forums is, how do I not suck? And what we've been talking about tonight is basically the answer to that. You don't suck by working through writing the songs where you do suck, because the only way you get better at doing something is by keeping on doing it, by doing the work, by putting the hours in, by writing one song, putting it in the stack, go, yeah, that's done, and moving on to the next, and putting that on the stack and saying, yeah, that's done, and moving on to the next. If you keep picking at one or two songs that you never ever tell yourself you've finished, then you can't progress as a songwriter, and you will never get past the sucking stage. And we all suck at one point or another when we start off. It's just a question of how fast you power through churning out the hundreds of songs. And if you're at all like me, it will be hundreds of songs before you get to the ones that maybe don't suck quite as badly as the others do. You've got to do the work. And at this point, I notice it's 20:55, which is 12:55 Pacific time, which means that the big moment has arrived for NASA. They're all leaping up and down and cheering. They've done it.
More reports, they're still getting telemetry from the lander.
All right, all stations. We got it.
Touchdown confirmed. We're going to wait for the images.
Wow.
That's
is
awesome.
So exciting. The team is beside themselves. It's
Oh, that's wonderful. I can breathe now. I've been really sort of stressing about that for a while, but that was good timing, wasn't it? So, yeah, hey. RF Emotion says NASA streams will probably be okay because everything they do is supposed to be public record. Yeah, it's... Oh, Rebenzi actually has his name on the lander. You signed up. That's brilliant. I did that for all my brothers and sisters and their kids for the Stardust Cometary Probe one that they did years ago. Good grief, that must be 20 years ago now. That's, Riaka Music says, Perseverance is alive. So now we get helicopters on Mars. Now that's the kind of future that I dreamed of, really. Helicopters flying about, drone helicopters, autonomous drone helicopters, no less, flying about on the Martian landscape. How cool is that? I don't think I can top that this evening, so I'm kind of not even going to try. But thank you very much for staying with me this evening. Thank you for your company. Thank you for your comments. I hope that going on about writer's block and creativity and everything else inspires you. Rabemziv says, it looks like I have to investigate form. I don't know where I'm going anyway. If you've ever thought about being a bit more serious about writing songs or just making music, instrumentals are fine. Our good friend, the French Dogie, does the most amazing mashups of genres for instrumental music that I have heard in many a day. And February Album Writing Month and its big brother 50-90, where you have to write 50 songs in the 90 days between July the 4th and October the 1st, it's just free tuition for becoming a better songwriter. And I have become a far better musician as a result of taking part in the 13 years that I've been doing form. And I'd just like you to enjoy getting as much out of it as I've done over these past 13 years. And I will continue to take part for as long as I possibly can. So I will be back making more music on February Album Writing Month tomorrow. I'm hoping that my collaboration with Yuha will come to fruition tomorrow. I'll tell you this, that at present it is called The Petting Zoo from Hell. So make of that what you will. But all will be revealed, I hope, on Sunday night's show. I will be back with another live stream at 2100 on Sunday night. That's 2200 Central European time, where I will be blathering on still further about making music, about ways to make your music better, about different ways of getting your content onto tape, onto a hard disk, onto CD, onto streaming, or whatever else you want to do with it, in a way that makes it shine. Because I kind of want everybody's music to shine. That's why I'm doing these things. So until Sunday night, I shall bid you good night. If you're going out over the next few days, please wear a mask. But whatever you're doing, look after yourselves, stay well, stay sane, stay healthy, and I will see you on Sunday night at 2100.